Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take name to be invincible. We'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
We'll be
Every
He
time
didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I am Pawel the Cat with my beautiful co-host.
My name is Evan Rev Rennerts coming at you with another episode, season 5. This is what episode now, Pawel?
Episode 19. We are digging into the middle of the season. We've got a lot to talk about, but first and foremost, do you have your beverage, Evan?
I got her, man. Got her right
Cheers.
Here. Cheers.
We have a great special guest tonight. We've got Trevor. Trevor, welcome from the Left Coast Leafs podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. We know there's a game on tonight that you're probably missing. Welcome to the show. And we wanted to know, first and foremost, with every guest that comes on the show, what made you fall in love with the game of hockey? Where did that first passion for the game emerge, if you can recall?
Well, I was born and raised in Regina, Saskatchewan. So that's more than half the story right there. And so we had a backyard rink. My dad was a Leaf fan. So it was, I was just born into hockey. It was never very good. I never played above the house level. But I loved the game. So when I became a parent, I became a hockey dad, and here we are. So it's just the Leaf fandom has continued through thick and thin, and I decided to turn the curse into a podcast, which has been the greatest therapy that I could ever have imagined.
Well, it's pretty cool and amazing to hear that, because as we all know, like the New York Yankees, like Manchester United, like the Dallas Cowboys, who in winning fashion did not do so well this year. The Toronto Maple Leafs are very synonymous with hockey. Everyone knows it. And you're either on one end of the spectrum or the other. You're either in love with the team and you're a diehard fan, or you passionately hate them because you're a fan of the other team. So let's dive deep into this team. There's a lot going on around the team. There's been a lot of changes. There's been some big signings. Let's get to your thoughts first on William Nylander and what his signing means for this core, keeping them together and moving forward.
Wow. So I can speak for Sean, my co-host on the show. We've been pro Willie from the beginning when he started getting hated on for his first sort of contract negotiation, how that dragged into a season. We've always loved the player. Probably of the big three, the only overpayment coming out of their entry level, the only non-overpayment coming out of their entry level contracts, ended up being a pretty valued contract. This particular contract was just a complete capitulation. I don't like it. I still like the player. I think he was basically graded on 35 games, and I mean a good season last year too. But that amount seemed to go up $2 million because of 35 good games, and I think it's just a continuation of jamming themselves up for years to come because they're doubling, tripling down on this formula of a top heavy roster payroll wise, and I don't love it, and I don't even trust that Willie is going to be the first 35 game Willie even after the next 35 games after the contract. I think it's human nature that he's just going to settle back into a kind of a nice, comfy spot.
So, Trevor, Evan here. My question, though, remains around when you got a player and he's going to unrestricted free agency, are not the Maple Leafs kind of in a bad spot? You don't pay him. He feels rejection, and you know he's going to play hardball. He already kind of set the table in his previous contract. So what else would you be able to do to get value back? Because you don't know what you're going to be. I know the Leafs are pretty good at being able to attract players, but what do you do instead? Like, is there some options fans are throwing out there that you think, or things you've heard around media, or something that you devised that you think would have been a better plan than paying that amount?
Well, I feel the entire organization got jammed up in mid-June with the hasty departure of Dubas, and you had Nylander and Marner's no trade clauses kicking in on July 1st, and at that point you had to move off of that philosophy. And I believe that Dubas was intending to move off of that big three. I think he was willing to break them up before those no trades kicked in. And I don't think he got the endorsement from Brendan Shanahan and the board. And so that's how they got stuck where they are right now. Plus, and then when Treliving came in on short notice, he had 2 weeks to clean this mess up. And he had an unsigned Matthews and a coming due Marner. And had they sort of moved on from Willie, that might have changed Austin Matthews' mind about what he wanted to do as well. And so now, what do you do now that that's all? It all is what it is. I think you have to move off of Mitch Marner. I think you have to go to him and say, "What are you willing to do?" Because he's going to want more than you can't pay him more than Matthews, but he's going to want more than Nylander. So he's going to be in that 13 million range or high 12s. And you're just repeating the last 5 years. Yeah. It's a really difficult spot that they put themselves in, quite frankly. And then you can't even build a bottom six or depth on D when you still have that going on. Even and don't even talk about JT. He's still on the books for one more year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of synonymous with what we're talking about. And Jordan, who's tuning in, thank you, Jordan, is asking, Trevor, do you think that you may be a little bit afraid, or you as a fan, of the cap space going forward? We know that tentatively it could be 4 million up, so 87.5, 88.5 maybe, and have to bank on bargain depth contracts like the Noah Gregors right now that you have in the organization. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. More so next year than even this year, you're going to have to go. You're not going to be able to pay a Tyler Bertuzzi $5 million next year, even if it's every player outside of the top six is going to have to be making under 1.5 million. And what kind of quality are you going to get? So with Willie's raise kicking in next year and the cap only going up 4 million, and JT still in the books, who really isn't even a second line player anymore in the NHL. Yeah, next year is going to be worse. It's going to be more bargain contracts, probably Matthew Nyes and Easton Cowan having to step in and play full-time roles next year. And all the while trying to prop up the weakness that is John Tavares. And maybe if the logjam breaks when he's off the books in the next year after that. But until then, I think they're in a holding pattern, honestly, as far as putting chips on the table, trading prospects to take a run at a cup. I think maybe cooler heads might need to prevail, and they have to just ride this out. Hate to say it.
So question around John. So Trevor, question around John Tavares. I'm just, because we're looking at his season right now, which is kind of an anomaly. I mean, essentially, he is still a point per game player. This season, he's dropped back. So he's got 34 and 45. The team has had its struggles. Are you seeing something else on the ice outside of point production that maybe we're not seeing? Obviously, we're in the West, so we get a lot more following of coverage of Western Conference stuff in the NHL. So what I follow, though, I see a drop-off, but not a drop-off and we're not talking about an Ovechkin drop off here.
Right.
Is there more concerns that we should be made aware of outside of Toronto?
I think there's a major slowing down of his foot speed. And then the league's just getting younger and faster. He hasn't scored a 5-on-5 goal in 25 games. I always don't get me wrong. We had an emergency podcast the day he signed. We were jumping up and down the day he signed, but everybody knew that was a limited time. Like this, he wasn't going to be great in year 6 and 7, and so this is the drop off that we expected. But it's kind of fallen off the cliff. And I always thought, even the last couple of years, that the whole point per game piece was a bit of fool's gold, a bit of an anomaly, because a lot of it was on the power play. He hasn't really been able to drive a line. And when you have a $30 million player, or I'm sorry, $11 million player, and you still need a winger to drive that line for him, like you put yourself in a kind of a tough spot. But it's mostly around the speed, his shot selection. I think he still believes he can do things he did a few years ago, but he just can't. And takes a lot of shots from very low percentage areas and then the play dies in the goalie's chest and stuff like that, right? And just those kind of things. Yeah.
Well, it seems like a few people are tuning in and saying maybe Justin Bieber can help us convince some of these guys to take a discount, or maybe he can prop up some of these guys with bonuses. I mean,
there's no discounts.
The one thing Toronto has always had kind of an advantage of is a lot of their contracts are bonus heavy because they have so much capital that they're able to do that. Now, given that the trade deadline is coming up near, Jordan also wants to know, what do you think the Leafs could add at the deadline if they are, in fact, to you, buyers? Or could they potentially be sellers, or not move at all and hold on to that first pick? Because as we know, a few years ago, with that Peter Mrazek trade, you missed out on, and they may not have selected him, but a Seth Jarvis type of player, right?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they went all in, i.e. like a Ryan O'Reilly type of situation they did last year. I think they know where they're at. I believe that they have an idea of that they're not the team they were last year, and they're going to hang on to assets. They're not going to trade Matthew Nyes. They're not going to trade Fraser Minton or draft pick or Easton Cowan to do something this year, because their results for this season, they're starting to play out long term, and there's a point where you are. And I saw a staggering stat the other day that you just kind of you don't think about these things as you're going along, and they've had some okay streaks over the last 25 games too, but they've only beat one team in a playoff position in the last 25 games. And that one kind of blew me away. And I feel like, it's maybe time to just go into holding patterns, squeak into the playoffs, and maybe you get lightning in a bottle, right? Maybe Ilya Samsonov gets hot and carries you to a couple rounds of playoffs, and who knows? Yeah, but it's not an all-in year, I don't think.
I think that we could look at, could we not, though, that they're in that playoff spot. I mean, there's a lot of teams in the mix. They could finish still up near the top. They could be in a wild card. They could be just on the outside, depending if they pick it up. But with the players that they have some decent role players. I think the concern is around defense. But when you look over to the West and you look at a team like Edmonton, who a lot of people complained about their defense over and over, very similar, maybe a few more depth on the contracts, which isn't going to happen soon, because when McDavid and Draisaitl come due, they're going to be massive contracts that they're signing. But when you're talking about their D, they found a way to change that around. Could you see Treliving maybe changing up on the coaching with the defensive coaches or something around there, just to build a better structure?
I think their best chance at anything like that is to do what Edmonton did and go for a coaching change bump. I think that's where their best hope lies this year, to try and get that bump. I still don't know where, as bad as the Oilers were at the start of the year, I don't even believe that turnaround is strictly coaching, but I don't know what the magic sauce was there that Knobloch brought. You guys probably watching them more than me. Are they that much more defensively responsible? Yes. Of course, you have 97 and 29. I mean, we have a couple good guys as well, but we don't have that. But they're not carrying them every night.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so what is the 14-game winning streak, never giving up more than 2 goals? Like that's unheard of, like for any of the 31 teams in the league. So, but
Yeah.
I think there needs to be, I think a coaching change is their only hope at salvaging the season. I'm not a big fan of Keith anyways.
So question around that though would just be to quickly add in there before Pawel, because I can tell he's got a great question. He's got ready for you. Okay. Just around the coaching, we've had this discussion around Keith because he just signed another contract, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not on totally different scenario, totally different story for Treliving. But we had Sutter sign for a big contract and they didn't bring him back. Toronto can afford the contract, doesn't go against the cap. Is there a good possibility if they made that move, they could be making it within the next week to 2 weeks?
I think so.
And then potentially, and I doubt you probably heard anything. Everything's quiet. You got to ask for permission. But could they be mustering around a little bit of question around Woodcroft?
I wouldn't think so. I don't know that there's any connective tissue there between Brad Treliving and Jay Woodcroft. Unless he has been part of the Flames organization in the past. But I think they might be sniffing around a guy like Craig Berube.
Yeah, that's what
I think he, and I mean, of course, there's the outside possibilities of guys like Joel Quenneville getting reinstated and that sort of thing. But this team is so conservative as far as just public perception and it's a shareholder driven corporation, right? So I don't know that they'll go down that road, but you have a guy with a kind of a proven track record short term, which all coaches like Berube, I mean, they have a short shelf life, but sometimes that shelf life is the Stanley Cup, right? And this team does just watching this Winnipeg Jets game tonight, the first 2 periods, lifeless, just completely not engaged in the game whatsoever. And Keith benched the first power play for 2 power plays, and he's doing a lot of these things kind of like way late. Yeah, like they're kind of desperation moves. So, yeah, I think I'm more of a guy like Berube, not a Boudreau. He's too much of a rah-rah guy.
Bruce, there it is.
We love Bruce.
Woo. I agree. So the one thing that Hans is mentioning is that Benoit has been awesome, and I agree. I mean, you've gone bargain binning, and apart from him and Martin Jones, which we'll get to goaltending in a bit, they've really hit it out of the park. And one of the things that I find that people criticize Toronto for, which I don't think is warranted, is their defensive game all around. Because if you've looked at the last few seasons, they have been in the top 10 teams in the NHL and been able to overcome a lot of their issues. The problem is that this year, one of the biggest challenges has been TJ Brodie. And for some reason, he has really fallen off the map. Now, I know he was a Dubas guy. He really liked him, tried to get him earlier on with the Kadri trade. We all know how that worked out. Mm-hmm. But your thoughts on TJ Brodie, on the defense pairing, and would someone additional like a Sean Walker out in Philadelphia or a Colton Parayko in St. Louis be a good fit potentially at the trade deadline or in the off season?
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm a big fan of TJ Brodie, and I had the pleasure actually of going to 3 games in Toronto last season, and I gained a massive appreciation for TJ Brodie, watching him in a full ice situation and just watching his intelligence and his IQ. And maybe you guys being Westerners in Alberta, maybe you've seen him live on a number of occasions as well, but just like possibly one of the more elite defensive minds in the game, just all the nuance that he has. But I think he just physically has dropped off, and I think that like everyone's has their time, and I think his time has come, and I think it is time to. I mean, I'd say move him down the lineup, but they can't even move Gio down the lineup without moving him out of the lineup, because when you look down your bench and see what you have, and things matter, you still have to go with your war horses, right? Like even if they're just broken down, because you haven't really developed and brought anything out. Liljegren isn't the guy that they were hoping he'd be quite yet. And you mentioned Benoit, like God, like I hope they re-sign him, because he's a perfect third pairing guy. Like he's He's the Tyler Myers. I've been begging for Tyler Myers for 4 years, and I just get slaughtered by the mathematicians on Leafs Twitter when I just even suggest that they bring a guy in like that in. But yeah, like Sean Walker, like you said, or Colton Parayko, like guys with length, right? Guys who will give up the odd cross check in the rib cage, in the playoffs, and we don't have anybody like that. So,
well, Vancouver Canuck fans are happy that Tyler Myers is not with you. That means he's still with them.
He's not, and now he's not going anywhere. They probably would have partnered with him last year.
Yeah, they would have parted him this year if they could. If there's
early, off season, they would have.
Yeah. And sometimes Myers is a bit of a Bambi on ice, but he's not a regular season defenseman anymore. He's one of those guys that's gonna really make a difference in the third round of the playoffs, right?
Well, Zilstra says you can have Tyler Myers, which is interesting. So
I know he's very polarizing.
So one of the things that has come out in this last little bit is the Ryan Reeves, not necessarily saga, but Jordan and Hans were asking earlier to comment on your thoughts on him having an interview. I forget the reporter's name, and coming out and saying, hey, like, I'm ready to go. He's on injury reserve, so not on LTIR. He says he's good. He signed that big contract.
Yeah.
We've had his dad on the show before. A very colorful guy.
Yeah.
But your thoughts on Ryan Reeves potentially coming back? I know they may have to waive someone. What do they do with Ryan Reeves, given how poorly he's struggled this year in Toronto? Yeah,
I mean, I once again, I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and criticize the signing, because we were all happy that he was coming and that we had some grit in the lineup. But in hindsight, I now realize that he's just not it, right? And his record is the amount of times he's been on the ice for goals against is quite staggering, and versus goals for. But I like what he did. I like that he came out and said that he's lobbying for himself. He's a competitive guy. He wants to be out there. I really like that about him.
Yeah.
He's probably sick of just being a cheerleader, and I don't blame him for that. But I think the Leafs have the resources to bury him somehow, and they will. Chicago's taking on contracts right now. They need to hit the cap floor. There's always dance partners like Arizona and that sort of thing, where the Leafs seem to be able to bury money somehow. And so I just don't think he gets back in the lineup. But I don't think he's actually on the team much longer either.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So the big key now is, and it was mentioned a little bit earlier, what does Toronto do in net? Now, of course, Woll is still, I think, a few more weeks out, potentially the starter. He's had a really good season. I watched the game where they played Ottawa, and he played unreal, although, of course, he got injured. But you've got Samsonov, who's been playing very well in the last little bit, although, his confidence, he's very high and low, according to people we know within the Washington organization. And then you have Martin Jones, who's probably Brad Treliving's best signing in the offseason with that $100,000 signing bonus and putting him on waivers. Your thoughts on goaltending? Should they even entertain getting a new goalie? Should they have given Dennis Hildeby a chance, or are we stuck with what we got here?
I think they're stuck with the three they have. I would have liked to see Hildeby play. And I think for what they are this year up front, what they have is what they have. And I don't think they can give up any assets to prop up that position in season. It's a matter of where do you even go? Goaltending is voodoo. It's the most confusing, important position in sports. So it seems like Samsonov has regained some form, but I think if you just rotate, once Wall comes back, if you just rotate three guys and keep them fresh and see what's happening in late March, early April. So you never know how Wall's going to bounce back, though. Like it's a tough situation for him, being no games. I had all the faith in him before the injury, but I don't have a lot of expectations for him to come back in the same form. But I'd stand pat in that position right now. Jones has regressed a bit, but this team should they should be able to outscore their problems sometimes. They just don't seem to be able to, which is how they're built.
You know, interesting. So I was watching that Edmonton game. I actually thought when they came out of the shoot, just glaring. I mean, they looked good. I thought the Oilers were done. That their streak was over.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one that we really don't want to see streaking is Pawel. But I'm happy to see any team streaking. Honestly, if it's a win streak, including Toronto, if they can go, good on them, and mostly not for the team, not for the organization, but for the fans, right? Because the fans deserve to get, when you spend so many years supporting them. But hey, here's a question. So at the beginning of our show, we have in our video, if you guys watch it, by the way, I just like to put a plug in there for Penny Billionaires, guys. Make sure to check them out on all of the podcasts. When it comes to checking out, you'll see them on our intro music. We have the exclusive rights to their Invincible song. Thank you so much to Penny Billionaires, a Phoenix electronic hard fused rock band. Now, having said all that, I just like to also mention Leaf Coast, West Coast Leafs podcast here with Trevor joining us, guys. Make sure to check this out. Go over, check out their links. We'll have all their links. We'll put it up on our former page, our former guest page. In addition, go in, check out their podcast. They have a ton of stuff. We have a couple questions left before we're going to let them go here from Pawel and I. We got 2 questions left as we go around this. So, and the reason I mentioned Penny Billionaires is because in that song, Trevor, we mentioned, and I say, no, he's not. He's a bully. I'm talking about Brendan Shanahan in that little podcast from last year. And I'm talking about the Kyle Dubas thing. So Pawel and I had very different takes on this. I have no idea what your take is on it, because obviously I didn't follow any of those podcasts back then. You guys obviously probably talked at this at length when everything was happening, when it broke down. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to check some of that stuff out, but you'll be able to kind of share a bit in just a moment, because I'd like to get your take, because my understanding is Kyle wanted more power. You mentioned it earlier that Brendan Shanahan was probably likely had his hands around those contracts with William Nylander and trading and so forth. How long is his job safe?
Shanny, I believe that if something doesn't happen this year, if this particular season goes down in flames, there is a new CEO of MLSE that's come in this year, and I think he's expired. I think he's going to be gone at the end of this year. And the Shannon plan was a 5-year plan. It didn't work out. It's still shocking to me that somebody with his resume was sort of the architect of building a team like this. And like I said, I referenced this earlier, like doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on it. And like, don't tell me that Shanahan doesn't know a player when he sees one, or what a player is made of character-wise. And all 3 of those guys at the top of our roster are not character players. And like, it's just, I think he's become too emboldened to the shareholder side of the company. And I think he really likes his position that he has. But I think there's going to be a hockey operations decision made at the end of this year.
Sweet.
That's pretty cool. So we're having a few more people tune in. And one of the people that's a big diehard fan here from the local city of Edmonton is Hans. He's a big diehard fan.
You're welcome for Zach Hyman.
Yeah. He honestly we can quickly chat on him, but just before we get to Zach Hyman, the one thing I wanted to ask you, because Leaf fandom is almost everywhere, and we talked about it at the beginning of the show. I wanted to gauge your experience of how incredible the atmosphere is. And I've seen it. I've attended a few games where Toronto has played, be it Edmonton or other teams. That atmosphere and the fact that Leafs Nation is almost everywhere. You find people all around the world. And what is that like to have that camaraderie, that connection, and to follow that team?
It's pretty amazing. I've seen the Leafs in only 3 cities. So I've seen them in Vancouver, I've seen them in Toronto, and I've seen them in Las Vegas. And it's just heartwarming to go and just find like-minded people who cheer for your team. It doesn't matter that we haven't won the cup since 1967. It does matter. It matters. But in that moment, when I'm down at the Regal Beagle in Vancouver with all the Leaf fans, which is a Leaf bar in Kitsilano, if you're ever in Vancouver, check it out, with all my friends down there, like, it's just, you're just in good company. You all have the same trauma you know, and you can, yeah. I think Leaf Nation is awesome, but man, is it ever a divided faction on Twitter? Holy smokes!
Oh.
Like, like there's 32 teams in the league. There's 32 Leaf leagues or teams on Leaf Twitter. It's like, wow, it's all over the place, and it's often just split up by every 5-year increment of age.
That's fair. I mean, there's such a longevity to the fan base that, of course, there's going to be differing opinions of how and why and whatnot. But the history is very rich, and we do hope to see more playoff success for the Leafs, because it's good, as people like to harp on them, good for the league and good for any Canadian franchise.
Exactly.
So it's pretty cool. So quickly, I'll let you touch on Zach Hyman, just your thoughts on him as a player, and then we can finish up and let you go.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about Zach Hyman? He's probably the hardest working player in the league. He's a dog on a bone. I feel I understand why the Leafs let him go, because with the way that you're just always counting nickels and dimes every offseason, backfilling, it didn't seem like he was going to be a good signing. He had a couple injury-prone postseasons where his legs were falling off almost, and I think maybe they thought that he was going to wear down, and that they got the best out of his legs because of the way he works hard, right? And then when you look back 2 years, could have they found room for him to give him the 5 point? Absolutely, absolutely. Tyler Bertuzzi's making that money right now. They gave it to him, right? So good on him. He went to kind of a rival team, if you want to call it. Well, it was a rival team. I mean, I think it's a really great rivalry. But I'll never not be happy for that guy. Like, I hope he wins the cup. Yeah.
I think Toronto has a rivalry with almost every team beyond the usual.
I think every team has a rivalry with Toronto, but Toronto has a rivalry with nobody else. How's that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Evan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, no, definitely appreciate all the impact that you have. Again, maybe share a couple of the places that we can all follow you at. We'll put them in the links later on. Yeah,
so at Left Coast Leafs on Twitter, at Left Coast Leafs Podcast on Instagram, and somehow we're out there on Blue Sky and Threads, but I don't even know. I don't even post on those apps. I just we're just there. It's they may or may not take off. So yeah, and then our podcast obviously is on all wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys tune in. They've got some great content. Unfortunately, only Trevor is here, which means he's the better version of the show. It's like if I got rid of Evan, then I would be a better show. But,
well, maybe we should start a show.
We should. You hear that, Evan?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. We hope to be in contact, and we'd love to have you back in the future if you ever like to. If not, I understand. But thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. And as everyone always says, go Leafs, go.
Thank you. I'd be happy to jump on again. Thanks, guys.
Well, hey, just remember, you could just call it a leaf and a has-been, and you might take off. You never know.
Thank you. And Zylstra's mentioning you got to watch Seattle. So I will ask you, sir, because you guys like to do craft beer. Do you have a particular beer? Because I know you guys review them on your show. Okay.
Main Island Brewing Company.
Main
Island is if you're coming to Victoria on the ferry from Vancouver, Main Island is one of the islands to the left. And there's a great brewery there. So check them out if you're ever in the Gulf Islands.
Oh, excellent, man. Excellent. We'll have to do that.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Trev.
Go, let's go.
Cheers. That was amazing. Thank you, Trevor, once again. Remember, guys, right here, Left Coast Leafs podcast, a podcast out in Victoria, BC. They do a lot of good work. Give them a follow. All right, everyone, we got a lot to get to, and I know that you've been waiting to rant. So our rant tonight is brought to you by Sports Empire. Sporting Empire for all your sporting needs. They do a lot of great stuff. Anything NFL, NBA, MLB, they've got you covered. Are you ready?
Okay, I have no idea why fans and media are so ignorant and so rude, and they are full of shit. Okay, I'm just gonna call it the way it is. I don't usually use that. I have to. I am so frustrated that I'm going to say the word shit, like it or not. I'm sorry if I'm disturbing you right now, but some of you are shitting on people when you're the piece of shit. Listen, Hockey Canada is terrible. They've messed up. But calling out 5 players that they're going in and they're being charged and locked up in jail when you don't have a clue what is the frick going on, that's enough of putting names out there. This is like Connor Bedard's mother and Connor Bedard. Like, what the heck is going on in your minds for doing this? You say that you should know. Who says you should know? You don't need to know a darn thing what's going on. Watch the game. Don't watch what's going on off the ice. You make me sick. You make me puke. Quit blaming players. You can get all your feelings, but don't make accusations until it's done. The truth will come out. I see people saying, get the truth out. When the truth comes out, and I'm going to back up my buddy right now, one of our great guys, Jamie Baskow, he's out there saying, listen, Carter Hart, he's going in. He took some leave. But we don't know what's going to come out of this. All we know is what the agent has said. Everyone has him locked up in jail. Give me a break. And you're freaking out at Jamie Baskow. So, Jamie, I'm behind you, man. This is ridiculous. If he's found guilty and he gets locked up, then you guys comment away, man. But wait till he gets in jail and just shut the heck up. I'm done.
Very good. Very good. I think you're referring to the story of both Carter Hart and Dylan Dubé, and then Michael McLeod and a few other the 5 players in that 2018 Team Canada.
Forementioned two over in the Dell, yeah.
And just kind of doing my only thought is, again, as we always try to do on the show, is we're trying to be very wary about what we report and how often. I don't need to get the latest scoop. I'm okay with waiting, because the problem is not all the information is always out there. You know, people jumped on Corey Perry, people jumped on Evander Kane.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And look how that situation has turned out. If people are following that. So you have to be really mindful, because you're playing with people's lives. My only critique is that I do not believe that and I have to pick my words carefully, believe that players like this, although they're going through some, mental health concerns, use this as a guise in order to actually address the real issue of mental health. Because in my mind, mental health is more than just because you potentially are found guilty or potentially in trouble of, right?
Because you're stressed or something like that.
Yeah, like that's where people actually, there's been players who have gone, Spencer Knight comes to mind, taking some time away and just dealing with the pressures of playing in the NHL. So that was my only concern.
And interesting, when they go into a substance abuse program, they'll actually refer to mental health even for something like that. Yeah. Guys, here's one of the things I believe. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys have the collective bargaining agreement or somewhere in the NHL rules and the guidelines, it may say, and just be out there, where actually what's categorized under mental health, and this might be an NHL release thing, that they need to change the name, but that's an excellent point. That totally destroys people who are truly needing support and help to the mental health. When we're dealing with people just saying, I'm stressed, I'm scared, I'm anxious, I'm like anything along those lines, that just call it what it is. Just say, I need to leave for undisclosed personal reasons, and leave it at that.
Very fair. So the one thing that I wanted to include is with our website. Of course, we are here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. For all your hockey needs, we're on Twitter at REVNEV or hockey_2. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitter /X. We are on Facebook. Give us a follow. I wanted to talk a little bit something about Around the Rink. So this is brought to you by our website sponsor, JR Web Designs. For all your website design needs, they do great work. And here we go. So you guys have been amazing fans, and we appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. We appreciate it. This was sent to me by one of our fans, someone who tunes into the show, and it's from around the rink. So we love supporting the PWHL women's hockey, and it was announced today that Bridget Laquette has become the first Indigenous woman to scout for an NHL team.
Woo!
This is the Chicago Blackhawks. She was also the First Nations woman ever to play hockey at the Canada Winter Olympics in 2018, earning a silver medal in Pyeongchang. So we appreciate the fact that she got this role. We think it's pretty amazing. We hope that she succeeds in this role. And we'd like to throw it out there to anyone who is involved in hockey and Indigenous. We'd love to get you on the show and to talk more about hockey in your community. So we would appreciate that.
Absolutely. You know, and let me just go a step further here. I'm actually happy to announce about one of the things we like to do on our show is bring guests in of all sorts. So we don't try to specify, say, this is only NHL. We bring non-NHL, we bring junior leagues, we bring scouts, broadcasters, management, we bring super fans, we bring podcasters, whether it's social media, people that develop their own sites and got a following. You don't have to be super popular. That's one of the things, but you are in the know of somehow and very connected into the hockey world. That's one of the things. And so when it comes to women's hockey, right now we have 3 different requests out there we're waiting back on out of the PWHL, including a couple of the teams that I have good news that they are open to coming on. We still, at the end of the season, we'll have Carly Jackson, the backup goalie that had planned to come on originally for the Toronto team. She will be still joining us end of season. We're just going to make sure we get through the season for her. And then from there, but I'd like to announce, be sure to join us, guys, February 21st, our show. An incredible youth sports program for ladies. We had Howie Draper on, who is now the New York PWHL coach. We had him on our show previously. Pawel was able to link that up out of the University of University Pandas. I was going to say Golden Pandas program. Great podcast. If you can go back into, I believe it's season 3 with him. However, we have another great program from UNB, the University of New Brunswick. So we actually have Sarah Hillary, the head coach of the University of New Brunswick's ladies hockey team, joining us on February 21st. It will be a pre-recorded show that day or the day before because they are 3 hours ahead of us in the time zone and she's got kids. So she's got to get those kids to bed. So Sarah, if you're watching tonight, thank you for planning to come on. We look forward to talking lots of hockey and around women's hockey and the development, because now I do believe, and this will be one of the questions. So Sarah, if you're already getting this, make sure that you're ready for this answer, because I'd like to know now, are youth sports for women thinking about things differently in Canada? Because youth sports for men, it's a much harder road. But could youth sports for women in Canada be a great stepping stone into the PWHL? So this will be some great talk that we have around with it. So.
Well, Hans is saying we have an awesome overtime show. I hope it's us, not something else he's watching. Zilstra is saying it's 2 guys in hockey fights for Jordan or Jord, but Jordan thinks it's 2 guys in NHL talk. So we clearly have to patent a few names in order for us to actually be successful in the future. So that's been pretty much it. I know you wanted to talk about a few more things around the rink within the NHL circle. So do you want to? Outside the circle.
Right,
so outside the circle.
Another former guest, Daryl Woski, guys, go check him out. Check out his feeds on X. Daryl Woski, hockey agent 2112. I think it's 2112 or is it 2012? I better get that right. 2112. There you go, Daryl. I want to put a plug in there out for him. Right now, he has been tweeting. He's just, I believe, now leaving somewhere else. He has been in Russia. So he headed into Russia to do some of his work. And on his X feed, you can go in. Some of you don't know what his X is. You still are in the years ago, so it's called Twitter to you, and you tweet instead of post. But that's beside the point. Go in there. He'll tell you some stuff about trying to get credit cards, trying to be able to get onto media, trying to be able. He can't use a regular credit card. You can't use your regular phones. It's been quite the trip, and I wonder how many people next year are not going to be signing back over there. And I'd like to just mention Gusev. So Gusev, who was a former NHL player, is the leading leading scorer right now this year with 71 points. And look at Goldobin. Guys, Vancouver Canuck fans, Goldobin has taken off, man. It's been a fabulous strip over there. So check out Darryl Wolski. I'm going to put a plug in for him because he's got some great takes and some interesting stuff over there as well. Yeah.
Well, so before we get to the next topic, we know Zylstra that we have more than 15 minutes left. I was just saying we're finishing up at the end of the night with that. And thanks to our fans who are tuning into this and to the game. The Leafs have won, and Matthew has scored his 39th game.
Wow.
We didn't really talk about him as a scorer, but we'll get into that next time. So, and Jordan apparently called it. So if you're making bets, Jordan is your guy to go to. He will tell you what the outcome will be of that game. He's never been wrong.
Just don't trust Jordan when it comes to junior hockey leagues and drafting. That's all.
All right, you had a few more things you wanted to attack.
Yeah. Remind me, because I don't have all my notes with me. I didn't bring to my table. What was one of the other things I mentioned I wanted to talk about?
Well, there's been the talk of Utah and the ownership.
Oh, yes.
Smith there talking about pushing forward for getting a team there right away.
Yeah, yes, exactly. The owner, the Smith Entertainment Group. So the actual letter of intent of interest was actually submitted to the NHL. Not money yet, but the letter of interest. So that means that they're prepared. They've sent a plan in. They've got their current arena will work while they're building for the next Olympics. I think it's in 32 that they've been awarded for the Winter Olympics that they're going towards. So right now, we've all known that they are likely Bettman's next favorite destination. It's been pretty popular out there. There's been a lot of takes. Even 32 Thoughts with Elliot and Jeff have shared a lot.
They
There's been a lot.
Him,
yeah. However, the timing is very interesting because it gets released at the exact same time with the NHL having to deal with the investigation into the Hockey Canada and the incident that happened back in 2018. So people are all over that, blaming the NHL. Again, guys, you know what? Chances are, if this letter of intent, I doubt they held on to this information for 3-4 days in today's world. It just happened on the same day. There's information coming out of the NHL almost every day. Don't assume the worst, man. Don't assume the worst about I get the NHL is bad. They're disciplinary. They make a lot of mistakes. They cover up a lot of things. They do that, but not every single thing. I mean, is there ever any positivity? You know, Pawel, you used to teach a course with me, and we used to talk about a couple reports that are out there. 7 or 8 out of every 7 to 8 out of every 10 interactions are negative. Is that not like that exactly in the hockey world? It's just like there's more negative than there is positive, and I'd like to focus in on some positive. But unfortunately, I'm ready for my Revs top 15, unless you got another comment before we go around this Utah.
We will get to your Revs top 15
because I want to talk about something else that sounds
we're going to get into that.
I
the
believe
first thing I just wanted to get a quick thought, and you guys can comment if you want. You know, your thoughts on Edmonton Oilers signing Corey Perry to league minimum and the Oilers' 14-game winning streak. Your thoughts so far?
Can you say, wow? So interesting. Now, I did think he might sign in Toronto, but I'd like to let it be known that I said he signs in Edmonton or Toronto. And I said that on last week's show. Go back, check it out. I did say he's signing in one of those Canadian cities. I did think it was Toronto. And if you ask me, Pawel, I think the difference was he would have went to Toronto had they not been struggling so bad and dealing with their goalie situation and their defense. And seeing the Oilers win, the Oilers set themselves up to get the best player that was out there. This is a freebie. It's like Evander Kane all over, except even cheaper. They're not worried about next year. He's cheap enough to bring in. There is talk, should he got a bonus, should he not? You know what? Yeah, it might affect them next year, $300,000. But if he can bring what he needs to bring, they can walk away from this if it doesn't work. If this is his 4th trip to the Cup without winning, well, that means it's his. If it's his 3rd without, was it 4th? Would this be his 4th? No, he's gone twice.
He's gone
with Tampa.
Anaheim, Montreal, Tampa Bay, Dallas, and Chicago, and now
No, but he's had 3 Stanley Cup appearances where he didn't win, and so
Montreal, Dallas, and the Lightning.
Yeah. So if he got there with Edmonton couldn't win, but they got to the Stanley Cup, you could still say that, man, that guy is a leader on and off. And I'm fully supportive of the move. I don't think that they did due diligence. We talked about this previously about the conditions, the things. Remember, Chicago, any other player, any other team, he would not have been let go. He might have been suspended for a little while they worked on some in behind. But Chicago has no choice. They screwed themselves by their bad misdealings before, and they need to separate themselves from any appearance of anything,
100%.
even though it was non-player related.
Well, and similar to the Hockey Canada situation right now, the NHL needs to be better in terms of addressing and presenting the situation and being willing, and I'm sure they are, willing to cooperate with whether it's local authorities or the public in terms of bettering their image. So, but with that, we know that we've got REVS top 15. Oh,
okay. Hey, no, it's okay. It's okay, man. Guys, so tonight I was going to be moving into number 14. I want to push that to the side. We have a much bigger story I want to work around right now before we get to number 14 and 15 over this week and next week. So I'm going to move 14 to next week. We have a special guest on next week. I can officially announce it. I wrapped it up about an hour and a half ago. So Keegan Bertram, he is a former hockey player out of Alberta. He is also a former play-by-play and has done work in the AJHL, in the WHL, and so forth. And so he will be joining our show to discuss the very topic I want to talk about in junior hockey. So first of all, I want to talk about the BCHL. Last week, we had an opportunity to talk with Tom Gonzola. Can I just say that we talked about with Tom Gonzola, and he dropped the bomb about the BCHL and why more players are not moving over to the from the AJHL. And boom, 2 days later, it happens. So Tom, thanks for having that discussion with us. Feel free to share that part of our podcast in advance. Plus, guys, go check out Belzy for his show that happens with Tom Gonzola. We want to plug for last week's show. I just want to mention, so this year, there is 9 players starting between number 70 ranked and 2,201 out of 224 players that would be selected. Right now, there are 9 players out of the BCHL that are prospects to be drafted. Wow, that's amazing. So let's just say, because there's a number between 171 and 201, that's 4 players, might not get in, but you could have 2 or 3 get in. You're looking at least 7 or 8 players going to be drafted this 2024 NHL draft. And might I say, 2 Guys in Hockey Talk will be live. So I just want to throw a shout out there, and thanks to some of our buddies and colleagues. It looks like we're going to get credentialed so that we can be at the event live for the 2 Guys in Hockey Talk. Thanks so much, guys, for helping us get those NHL credentials for the event. It's going to be a great day, but we are going to be able to go live with you guys. But just a heads up, we are only doing the top 15, just like REV's top 15. Now, let's talk about what we talked about, defection. People leaving the AJHL and leaving over to the BCHL. And part of the reason is the rules, the stipulations that Hockey Canada has. We're not going to get into that discussion right now. That's going to be spent more next week. So next week, we're going to talk more with Keegan Bartram, that's his name. It's interesting because my first name is actually Bertram Evan, and his name is Bartram. So, but it's his last name. So, hey, Keegan, we're looking forward to having you on next week. We're going to discuss more around the more specific details around that and junior hockey, how high the levels are, what's required. Some people do not like right now what's going on. They do not like the fact that the BCHL is absorbing 5 teams. They currently, over in that league, they have 2 divisions. They have 8 in one in the coast, 9 in the coastal, and 8 in the interior. And they're looking at putting together right now, next year, a 5-team Alberta list. Who knows? It could be one or two teams. The rumor is it's $1 million entry in. There's a lot of other stuff around that, but I am telling you, when you get out from among them, there's maybe not a lot of born BC people, but that league is attracting people, which attracts money, which attracts players. And remember, Tom last week was saying players are not showing up at camps like they used to. They're looking for the leagues that get recognized. So Hockey Canada, again, they're taking their nose, putting it up in the air, and don't want to change. Something's going to happen. I see more teams leaving the AJHL, or could we see a defection of the whole league folding and moving over and joining into the BCHL? I don't know.
Most certainly. The more power that continues to go into the players' hands is what I think more players want. You're seeing it more in the NHL. You're seeing it more across all other leagues. And I think the problem is that when you set such strict or particular rules or parameters for the contracts, you limit the opportunities that these players have, and some of them may not have an opportunity beyond this. You know, we heard with Tom and his opportunities and what he was able to do, and of course it wasn't for everybody and for him, but you know, some players want to move above and ahead, but they can't because they're limited. And so if you have a European player who wants to come over and play and have a greater opportunity at the draft because maybe it's weaker in his back home, then why not have that opportunity? So I think all the power and onus to the players. I think teams have to be a little bit more mindful now, and organization that's going to look like. And maybe you're going to see more free agent signings that are undrafted coming in the coming years. So
very well. Well, and interesting enough, so there is talk that they might want to form a Northeastern, which could compete with some of the WHL also, by the way. They like to form a Northeastern United States division as well to enter into the BCHL that are close in that same area. Alberta's going to be the team that's going to have to do more travel. They probably only come over once, walk through all 5 or 7 or whatever teams in Alberta. But here's the thing. I don't know if you guys are recognizing this. The UHL, United States Hockey League, that rivals, which we would call now the BCHL, growing, which I see a name change, by the way. If this continues to grow, you can't keep calling yourself the British Columbia Hockey League. Even though there's a British Columbia Junior Hockey League, you can't call yourself the BCHL and have teams from other country, other provinces starting to come in. I think I could see a name change, which is fine. I think that they would be all fine with that down the road. Right now, they're fine working under the one umbrella until they know they have enough financial flow, enough carry. But Macklin Celebrini is not playing in the Canadian Hockey League. We got some guys that are set up to come on our show. I'll mention some of the names as we go to leave here at the end. But we have some guys that are going to talk about the CHL, having been heavy scouts for the CHL, worked with them, been director of operations and so forth. The CHL is starting to get more and more competition from the United States Hockey League, and the USHL has a lot of Canadians, interesting enough, and a lot of Americans are now moving into the BCHL. So it's interesting. People just want to go where they think they get opportunity. That's the bottom line. And guys like Macklin Celebrini, you would think would have been out of the CHL, but he's not. And one last thing I just want to mention, and then I'm going to call it a wrap on my discussion around junior hockey right now. A lot of you might be saying, well, that's not fair. There should be so many Albertans. There should be so many British Columbians. There should be within the leagues of the junior hockey leagues of the Canadian Junior Hockey League. Well, if you believe that, then you still believe that you should only be able to get French players exclusive rights to the Montreal Canadiens. You should only be able to get exclusive territorial rights to your NHL teams. It's an open league for a reason. You say, well, one's development, one's pro. Yeah. So does that mean that I have a lesser chance of developing because I'm playing? I don't want to go play for a team that I can't develop as well on because it happens to be in a league maybe that I don't want to play in. Maybe I don't want to be in the WHL. I want to be in the Quebec League. Or maybe I don't want to be in the Quebec. Maybe Sidney Crosby would have preferred to play in the Ontario Hockey League. You know what I mean? So when you limit, you push people. And like you said, players want more power.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely an interesting take. And we're getting some comments here. Hans is saying, oh, holy crap, the Florida Coyotes game started with 2 fights right off the bat tonight. Just watching the highlights. Woo! That's insane. And Zylstra is indicating it's good to have diversity of systems available. 100% agree. She also believes we're going to be in Vegas together. Here we come. I'm looking forward to it. So
yeah. So just to mention, so Zylstra will be with me, the Lost Trucker. She'll be joining me. And can I mention? So a couple things I got. Okay, guys. Do you see this right here?
Ooh.
Look at that, guys. Rev and Ev. My wife got me great shoes. Okay, hang on. I'm not done yet here. For all you Vancouver friends, so this the Lost Trucker. Zill got me this. I got a nice Canucks. Okay. The skate. Okay. Hang on. But it was a player I really liked. Okay.
Oh, Kuzmenko.
Yeah. It's I also got an autograph.
He's having some issues right now. Oh, very nice.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Let's see if I can get this here. So I got also autographed Ron Hextall. And I actually had I'll show you another time ECHL jersey for Christmas, a special Christmas jersey that I will wear next year for our show, especially with it. But I'll have to show. So thanks, Lost Trucker, and look forward to doing the hockey live with you together. We'll be hopefully at a media credentialed table, and hopefully Pawel will join us live. But you have some news too, potentially.
I do.
You might not be.
Before I do that, so Hans saw your items and is making a pukey face emoji. So good for him, but he's joking. So I will be in Arizona at their arena on April 17th to watch them face off versus the Edmonton Oilers. So I may not be on the show live. I'll try to tune in and get a little bit of a blurb in there. Maybe I'll try to call in from the show, but the game starts at 7 their time. So I will be there and I will get to feel the college experience. And I get to meet up with former guest Sean Fiery, a big Tampa Bay fan.
No way!
And we're going to get together and maybe go for some brewskis. So I'm looking forward to seeing him there. And he's going to show me around town and he's giving me some suggestions and options. So
that's so exciting.
It should be a nice little treat for my wife and I. And I'm looking forward to it. Zilstra's saying you're going to love the game there. I am pumped. I just wanted to go over a few little things that have happened in the NHL because I know we like to do that.
And
I don't know if you watched the Pittsburgh game, so I wanted to harp on you, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, we are going overtime. You promised us, and you promised.
That's what Zilstra wanted.
That's right. We're doing it for you, Zil.
So, with Arizona, they played the Pittsburgh Penguins and made history recently when the Pittsburgh Penguins scored on themselves during a power play, essentially a penalty kill, after Chris Letang passed the puck back, and Malkin was allegedly supposed to get it, but he missed the pass. It didn't go tape to tape, and it went in the back of the net. And man, oh man, was there rumblings on Twitter /X on whose fault it was, whether it was Letang for not looking back, which most players do, or being so close to the net, or Malkin for not picking it up. You guys can let us know what you thought. It's definitely not a good look, but let's just talk about how Sidney Crosby is fighting father time and really playing unreal. So good for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I still don't know if they'll make the playoffs. We'll see. Other news, Peter Mrazek has re-signed with the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2-year, $4.25 million AAV. Again, it looks like he's not going to be traded, but he has done well and really revived his career there and played very well. Connor Bedard's still out. If you guys watched the Edmonton Oilers Columbus Blue Jackets, Boone Jenner also had a broken jaw or fractured jaw. It takes a while to heal. Not everyone heals the same, but we hope to see Connor Bedard soon. I know he won't be at the All-Star game, as well as Cole Smith of the Nashville Predators. He has been re-signed for 2 years, $1.1 million. So Barry Trott's doing some good work. And finally, the Devils have extended Mr. Tom Fitzgerald, their GM. Your quick and final thoughts before we finish, Evan, on the New Jersey Devils, and where do they go to get a goaltender? Who do they get?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You wonder if they trip back to Binnington. That could be a potential. Or do they push Montreal and actually just try to pick up? Do they take up Allen? Try to get Allen. They need to do something. Chances are they're gonna make a push. I can't see them dropping out one more year for a middle of the ground draft. They got to do something, but it's not their year. It's just not their year. I don't think they're going to be able to go far or deep this year. But you know what? Hockey, never say never. Never say
We're missing Ray right now. We wanted to get Ray's thoughts on it. So Ray, if you tune in a little bit later, we'll make sure to tag you. But we'd love to hear from you and your thoughts on Tom Fitzgerald and his signing.
Yeah.
So
okay. Hey, I got a few announcements. I'm going to wrap a few names around people. Guys, next week we got Keegan Bartram going to be joining us, former play-by-play AJHL. Also on February 7th, we actually have, so some of you might know him, Dwayne Hay. He is a development coach, also worked in the NHL, played. This guy is this is going to be a coaching breakdown show, man. Maybe we'll keep him on for a little extra time, break down some of the teams. He has development camps. So if you are out, I believe he's in Ontario, check it out and see what he's got going on. We also have our guest will be Connor Doyle. He is with the Hockey News. He represents the Los Angeles Kings. He'll be with us on the 14th. February 21st, we will have Sarah Hillary, coach of the University of New Brunswick ladies team. Then on the 28th, we will have Mark Allred. He is with the Black and Gold show. He is with Bruins hockey. So Steve Smith, Kyle, we're going to have a Bruins show for you, buddy. Then on March 6th, that's March 6th. Sorry. On March, I'm excited, man. So where we go here, I got to take these guys off my hands. Then on March 13th, it looks like we have Patrick Williams. He is on. He's with NHL.com, also works with the NHL, does media, does direction, and also does a lot of following, beat writing. He will be an excellent guest. And then on the 20th, we're not done yet. We have, so at that point, we have Michael Ravello, and he is a scout with the United States scouting for the WHL Everett Silvertips and the Detroit Red Wings. And so we're going to get a chance to actually get some great hosts in on some of these days, guys. So we have about 3-4 other guys. We very possibly, now, if you're listening to the show, I've sent out the invite. It possibly could happen. If you're listening, Perry, guys, if you're local to Edmonton, you'll know this guy. Perry Pern is going to see what he can do. I'm hoping. Come on, Perry, you can do it. We want to hear your coaching. The Perry's 3-on-3 tournaments are very famous out in Alberta. People are very familiar with them. So as well as we have, like I mentioned, some PD. We're becoming jam-packed. We gave you guys a few shows to take off. We're having less and less time to talk. And I think this is our longest overtime show. Man, I'm out.
Oh, no. I got one more thing. I know because people just want to hear us talk.
No, I'm out.
You're not out. We're before we finish, there was big news in the NHL that we need a chance to chat about, and there's a lot. Your thoughts on Patrick Waugh coming in to the New York Islanders? I know we have TJ and the Grumpy Cat. We're going to have to get their thoughts on what happened, but your thoughts on Patrick Waugh coming back to coach after over close to a decade back and taking over and being fiery in his first warm-up.
Love it, man. It makes great stories. It makes more excitement in the NHL. That team needs someone fiery. I've not been a fan of Lambert, and I like the guy. I just don't like the style that he brings. We talked about this last year. Talked about the beginning of this year. I do see Patrick Waugh coming back to the NHL. I just did not see him and Lou. That's what's interesting. It's the match.
Well, didn't he beat Lou's Devils back in, was it 2000 or 2003? Was it 9?
You know what, Lou?
Or was it 95? When Colorado won the cup.
Can I give a conspiracy what I think is going on?
Sure.
Could it be? We know that Patrick Waugh is a owner and a GM and a coach. Could it be there's a preparation for the next handling and taking over as president and GM?
Possibly.
Could it be? Now, of course, this is going to have to be earned. It will have to be earned, right? Lou, but could that be, hey, this could be a possible succession that where he can move. Yeah, succession. I can't even say the words. It's too late at night, and I've already finished a whole drink.
Well,
and
I think the biggest question is, will Patrick Waugh be asked to shave his beard? Because that is what Lou's priority is. Guys, thank you so much for, once again, another phenomenal episode. We had a blast interviewing
Trevor.
Trevor. Now mine is like for Left Coast Leafs. We appreciated his time and everything. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, we are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Follow us on Twitter/X at REVNEV or myself at hockey_2. Follow us on YouTube. Give us a like on Facebook. We appreciate it. We love hearing from you guys. We have a jam-packed month coming up, and we've got more. And the hockey never stops. But Evan, as you know,
well, I do want to throw a quick plug in, though, for the Kalkaska Battlers. I didn't do that last week. I want to throw it there. They have not had a winning season, but they're battling through everything. Guys, check them out on podcasts. They're one of our partners and working together. The Kalkaska Battlers of the Michigan Independence Hockey League over in Northern Michigan. Check them out if you get a chance in Northern Michigan. Go onto our Facebook page. We throw a lot of their stuff up there as well. Maybe I'll throw up some live YouTube feeds, too, for you guys so you can be able to check out some of their stuff. So thank you to Andrew Dibble and the ownership and the rest of the guys for being a part of it. So as we say every week, it's been another ring-a-ding-dong dandy, as I can say, but not Pawel. And in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe, everyone.
Cheers. Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.